we went for almost 100 years where each year, on average, commodity prices got cheaper. So if you were a manager, you kind of had a little advantage because next year, commodity price inputs were going to be about 2% cheaper, and well, I can go ahead and get about 1 or 2% better in my performance, and I was just fine. We're now going into a period where managerially you have to be able to see things coming from wholly different directions. You have to see your neighboring industry showing up in your industry. You have to see trends that are coming at you at 20% per annum change rather than 2 or 3% per annum change. You have to be able to do substitution of materials very fast so that you avoid the high risk ones and you capture the much lower risk ones. You have to create these kind of circular chains where I can recycle a lot of the material that I produce so that it doesn't cost me nearly as much. I need to bring software and embed it in my hardware.
You need a mixture of talent. You need not only mechanical engineers, but chemical engineers, software engineers, electrical engineers, people who understand psychophysics and understand human behavior. But beyond just the skill sets, the real challenge is that the complexity of the device has increased. So making the trade-offs between the disciplines, between the different features has become more complicated. The thinking really has to expand. It has to expand beyond the traditional industry that you're in, because you have to suddenly include innovations and changes that come from your suppliers. You have to include changes in the rest of the ecosystem that your product gets deployed in. You may have other industries that begin to influence it. So a lot of the technology for autonomy comes from aerospace, comes from the military. So again, there's that collision of different industries that are suddenly beginning to change each other. And then I think the other interesting dimension is it's going to expand across time. Increasingly, we need to think about actually the full lifetime. What happens during usage? What happens when there's a breakdown? How do we do maintenance? A lot of companies now doing systems engineering to improve the ease of maintenance, to make that possible remotely so that I don't even have to send a person out to fix whatever the product is. And then the end of life, being able to upgrade it, being able to reuse it, forms of circularity that allow you to get much more life and productivity out of the same device. And then ultimately being able to take it apart, recycle it, and reuse materials and components. So we have to think about systems integration, not just kind of horizontally into other pieces of the ecosystem, but actually forward in time and back in time to think about what does all this mean for our supply chain and for future use.